The sky over Earth turned dark at noon. At first, people thought it was a storm. Then every screen in every city flickered at the same time. News anchors stopped speaking mid-sentence. Satellites shifted their cameras upward. The clouds were not clouds. They were ships, thousands of them. They moved slowly, calmly, as if they had all the time in the universe. Their metal hulls blocked the sun. Shadows stretched across oceans and cities. Air traffic froze. Military bases went into emergency mode. Sirens began to sound in capitals around the world. No one had ever seen a fleet that large. In orbit above Earth, the Galactic Council Chamber was filled with alien delegates watching the live feed. They had seen worlds conquered before. They knew what came next. Then she appeared. The alien queen's image formed above every major broadcast tower on Earth. Her hologram stood taller than any building around her projection point. She had silver armor that looked grown, not built. A long dark crown rose behind her head like sharp wings. Her eyes were cold and steady. She did not shout. She did not threaten. Her voice was smooth and calm, and it echoed in every language at once. No mercy. The words were simple, clear, final. Then the transmission cut. Silence followed. For 3 full seconds, the planet did not move. Then chaos began. Fighter jets launched. Naval fleets shifted positions. Governments rushed to underground bunkers. Emergency messages were sent out. People tried to call their families. But the networks were full. World leaders gathered in secure rooms. Some demanded surrender talks. Others demanded retaliation. Many believed the Queen would send terms within the hour. She did not. Instead, something unexpected happened. A single request was transmitted from Earth's side, not from a general, not from a president, not from the council. It came from a civilian envoy, Adrian Cole. He was not famous. He was not a soldier. He had once worked in strategic communications and planetary defense planning. Most people had never heard his name. But his request was simple: direct audience with the alien queen. The request surprised even Earth's leaders. Some argued against it. Others saw no better option. The queen accepted. In her command ship above the planet, her generals watched with mild curiosity. She had crushed empires older than the species. A single human would change nothing. Adrian stood alone in a reinforced transmission chamber beneath the surface of the Earth. The room was small. Concrete walls. 1 chair. 1 projection array. He wore a simple dark suit. No weapons. No visible armor. The air hummed as the Queen's hologram formed before him. This time, she was human-sized. Up close, her presence felt heavy, like gravity had increased. She studied him. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He simply looked at her. "You requested audience," she said calmly. Her voice felt like it pressed against his chest. "Yes," Adrian replied. Outside, the alien fleet began to reposition slightly. Energy readings climbed. They were preparing. "You have one opportunity," the Queen said. "Surrender. Submit your species. Accept integration. Resistance will result in extinction." Her eyes did not blink. "This is your mercy." Adrian listened carefully. The room was quiet except for the low hum of power systems. For a moment, it looked like he might speak carefully, like he might plead for time. Instead, he laughed. It was not loud. It was not long. Just a single, short breath of amusement. The sound echoed slightly off the concrete walls. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Her generals on the flagship straightened. No one laughed at the Queen, not in 1,000 conquered systems. Adrian did not smile widely. He did not mock her. He simply looked at her as if he had just heard something strange. "You find extinction amusing?" she asked. "No," Adrian said calmly. "I find certainty amusing." A faint flicker crossed her expression. "You doubt my power?" He shook his head slowly. "I don't doubt your power. I doubt your timing." The Queen did not understand. Her fleet could wipe the surface of the planet within hours. Her weapons could split continents. Her empire had never lost a war. "What do you imply, human?" she asked. Adrian placed his hands behind his back. You said no mercy, he replied quietly. That tells me you believe this is a battle. Her gaze sharpened. And it is not, she asked. Adrian met her eyes directly. No, he said, it isn't. For the first time since the invasion began, the Queen felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, not yet, but confusion. Far above Earth, hidden signals began to move through space. Systems activated silently. Deep space arrays aligned. Energy grids shifted into position. The Queen did not see it. Not yet. In the small concrete chamber beneath Earth, Adrian Cole stood calmly before the ruler of 1,000 systems. The alien Queen had promised no mercy, but she had just stepped into something she did not fully understand. And that was why he laughed. The Queen's empire had never known defeat. For centuries, her fleets moved from system to system like a slow storm. Worlds that resisted were erased. Worlds that surrendered were absorbed. Her name alone ended rebellions before they began. Inside her flagship, the command chamber glowed with shifting star maps. Earth was now surrounded by red markers. Every human satellite, every space station, every ship, her fleet, had formed a perfect ring around the planet. No gaps, no escape. Her generals stood in silence as data streamed across the air. They expected panic. They expected chaotic launches, random weapon fire, desperate signals sent into the void. Instead, they saw something unusual. Human satellites adjusted their orbits with careful precision, not fleeing, not attacking, just moving. Ground-based defense grids powered up, but their energy levels stayed stable. No overload, no reckless discharge. Deep space relays activated far beyond the moon's orbit. Signals traveled outward, not in panic, but in pattern. The Queen watched the data, without emotion. They are preparing, one general said. For defense? Another asked. The Queen tilted her head slightly. For survival, she answered. Below, in the underground chamber, Adrian Cole still stood before her projection. He had not moved since he laughed. The Queen studied him again. You have seen my fleet, she said calmly. You have witnessed my record. Entire civilizations ended within hours of resistance. Adrian nodded once. Yes. You understand the outcome. I understand your history, he replied. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then why do you delay surrender? Adrian's voice stayed level. Because I need clarity. A faint ripple of irritation passed through her tone. Clarity? He looked up at her holographic face. Are you certain? He asked. The words were simple. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a question. The generals on the flagship reacted first. Several exchanged sharp glances. The question sounded almost disrespectful. The Queen mistook it for arrogance. You question my certainty? She asked. I question your assumption, Adrian replied. Silence filled the chamber. Above Earth, the fleet began Phase 1. Massive ships shifted into firing position. Energy cores brightened. Targeting systems locked onto military bases, communication centers, and orbital defenses. On Earth, warning alarms spread across command centers. Leaders braced for impact. But something strange happened. The first alien targeting scans flickered. Just briefly, then stabilized. Minor interference. An officer reported. The Queen did not react. Proceed, she ordered. No mercy. The words echoed across her fleet. Weapons charged to full power. On Earth, something else happened. Human military forces did not fire. They did not launch missiles. They did not send fighters into space. They waited. In orbit, alien commanders grew confused. Why are they not engaging? One asked. They are afraid, another answered. But the sensor readings said otherwise. Human satellites continued repositioning into a wide lattice pattern around the planet. They linked with each other through tight beams of light. Defense grids on Earth synchronized quietly, not spiking, not straining, just aligning. Deep space relays beyond the alien fleet began transmitting in complex sequences. The Queen watched it all. They delay the inevitable, she said. Adrian's expression did not change. You see delay, he said softly. We see preparation. For what? She demanded. He did not answer directly. For certainty, he said instead. The Queen's patience thinned. Your species stands on the edge of extinction, she said. Your cities are within range. Your fleet is insignificant compared to mine. Your weapons are inferior. Adrian nodded again. All true. Her eyes sharpened. Then explain your calm. He took a slow breath. Because this isn't new to us. The words carried weight. The Queen studied him more closely. Clarify. Adrian looked toward the ceiling, as if he could see the ships above through layers of rock and steel. Every species believes it is unstoppable, he said, until it meets resistance it didn't predict. The Queen felt something shift inside the room. Not physically. Strategically, her fleet's energy levels reached peak charge. Fire on my command, she ordered. Weapons locked fully onto their targets. Below, human command centers counted down expected impact times. Still, no counterattack came. Adrian met the Queen's eyes one last time. You asked why I laughed, he said quietly. She did not respond. It's because you believe you're starting a war. A faint tremor passed through the flagship's sensor grid, very small, almost unnoticeable. A general frowned at his display. Minor gravitational fluctuations detected, he reported. Source, the Queen asked sharply. Unclear. Patterned. Coordinated. The Queen's gaze returned to Adrian. You did this, she asked. He shook his head slowly. We did, he corrected. Across space, far beyond the alien fleet's outer ring, something vast began to align. Still unseen, still silent. Humanity had not fired a single shot. They had not shouted. They had not threatened. They had simply waited. And the Queen, ruler of an empire that had never lost, began to realize silence could be more dangerous than fear. The Queen gave the final signal. Begin planetary suppression. Her fleet responded at once. Massive ships shifted into precise alignment. Energy cannons locked onto strategic targets across Earth. Orbital platforms deployed containment fields designed to cripple infrastructure without destroying it. This was how her empire conquered efficiently. First isolation, then submission, then integration. The first wave of suppression pulses moved toward the planet. Then something unexpected happened. Sensors across her fleet flickered again, but this time the disturbance was not small. Contact detected beyond outer perimeter. A commander reported. The Queen turned toward the tactical display. Beyond her perfect ring formation, new signals appeared. Hundreds of them. They had not approached from Earth. They had not come from inside the system. They had been there, waiting. How were they not detected? One general demanded. Low emission signatures. Dormant until activation, another replied. The Queen watched the shapes form on the display. They were not shaped like battleships. No visible weapon arrays. No heavy armor plating. No strike formations. Instead, they formed geometric patterns in deep space. What are they? She asked. Analysis streamed across the chamber. Energy arrays. An officer answered slowly. Large scale. Signal amplifiers. Gravitational anchors. Field stabilizers. The Queen's expression hardened. They are constructing defenses? No, the officer said carefully. They are constructing boundaries. At that same moment, the suppression pulse aimed at Earth distorted slightly. It did not fail, but it bent like light passing through thick glass. Across human communication networks, Adrian's brief laugh replayed in internal military feeds. Analysts studied it again and again. It had not been nervous. It had not been forced. It had been calm. Recognition. In the underground chamber, Adrian stood quietly as data flowed around him. He could see updates from orbital arrays, deep space relays, and surface grids. Everything was moving on schedule. The Queen's hologram flickered slightly as external interference increased. What have you done? She demanded. Adrian met her eyes. We're not fighting your fleet, he said. Explain. We're isolating it. Far beyond the alien ships, the newly activated human structures locked into synchronized alignment. Thin beams of coherent energy connected them in vast triangular lattices. Gravitational distortions rippled outward, subtle but controlled. The Queen's fleet attempted to adjust formation. Navigation variance detected, a pilot reported. Drift increasing. Compensate, the Queen ordered. Thrusters fired, but efficiency dropped by a small percentage, then by more. Her ships were not damaged. They were being limited. On the tactical display, a faint spherical boundary began forming around her entire armada, not visible to the eye, but measurable in physics. What is the purpose of these constructs? A general asked. They are creating a containment field, the science officer replied quietly. Large scale, non-lethal, system-wide. The Queen's voice sharpened. Impossible. Such scale requires decades of preparation. Adrian answered before officers could. Yes. The word was simple. Yes, he repeated. Her gaze locked onto him. You expected us. We prepared for the possibility, he said calmly. The Queen felt something unfamiliar rise within her command chamber. Not fear, calculation. Her empire relied on overwhelming presence, on immediate dominance, on making resistance feel useless before it began. But these humans had not responded with panic. They had responded with planning. Her fleet's long-range communications began experiencing delay. Not full jamming, just interference. Signals took longer to relay across ships. External signals redirected. A communications officer reported. Redirected where? The Queen demanded. Nowhere. Dissipated. Adrian spoke softly. You rely on control through fear. We rely on survival through preparation. The containment field strengthened. Energy from the human arrays did not strike the alien ships. It wrapped around a region of space, bending gravitational lines, isolating energy flow, narrowing maneuvering corridors. No explosions, no destruction, just restriction. You are imprisoning my fleet, the Queen said slowly. Temporarily, Adrian replied. For what purpose? To prevent escalation. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You believe you can defeat us. Adrian shook his head. No, we believe we can outlast you. Her fleet's weapons remained fully powered, but targeting solutions became unstable. Long-range strikes could not calculate accurate trajectories beyond the forming boundary. She realized the truth in layers. The humans were not trying to destroy her ships. They were creating a battlefield she could not expand. They were limiting options. Her empire had always dictated the terms of war. Now the terms were changing. Your laugh, she said slowly. You knew. Adrian allowed a faint, calm smile. I knew you would choose force first. And that amuses you? No, he replied. It confirms our models. Silence spread through the flagship. The Queen looked again at the vast lattice forming around her fleet. Every human structure was precisely positioned. Every movement calculated years in advance. This was not desperation. This was contingency. Humans had not relied on intimidation. They had relied on preparation for the worst possible outcome. And when she declared no mercy, she had unknowingly triggered the exact scenario they had spent decades building. For the first time in her reign, the Queen understood something deeply unsettling. She had not cornered Earth. She had stepped into a controlled environment, and the laugh she heard earlier was the sound of someone recognizing a plan unfolding exactly as expected. The Queen raised her hand. Primary weapons, full discharge. Across her fleet, massive cannons rotated into position. Energy cores glowed brighter than small stars. Targeting grids aligned with Earth's surface. Then everything shifted. Navigation systems began to drift. At first, it was minor, a fraction of a degree off course. A slight delay in thruster response. Correct trajectory, a commander ordered. Thrusters fired. The ships moved, but not as expected. Inertial variance increasing, a pilot reported. Coordinates unstable. On the main display, formation lines bent slightly out of shape. Perfect circles became uneven arcs. The Queen's eyes sharpened. Stabilize immediately. Before the crews could respond, communication channels fractured. Signals between ships echoed. Orders repeated twice. Some commands arrived seconds late. Interference escalating. Source: distributed, not centralized. The containment lattice outside the fleet brightened softly. Thin lines of energy pulsed between the human arrays, invisible to the eye but clear on every instrument panel. Then the supply chain warnings appeared. Fuel routing signals rerouted into empty coordinates. Cargo ships received false return vectors. Automated drones paused mid-course, confused by conflicting instructions. Supply lines misaligned. An officer said, "Recalculating." The recalculation failed. No explosions shook the fleet. No weapons fired. No hulls cracked. Just silence. Weapons remained charged, but targeting solutions dissolved into mathematical errors. Every trajectory prediction produced uncertainty. The Queen watched the tactical map flicker. Her fleet was intact. Her power was intact. But her control was slipping. In the underground chamber on Earth, Adrian stood quietly while data streamed past him. Human cybernetic units worked in perfect rhythm. They did not overload alien systems. They did not inject destructive code. They introduced uncertainty. Gravitational anchors adjusted microvariations in local space-time curvature. Navigation relied on stable references. Humans had simply shifted those references carefully, precisely, not enough to destroy, just enough to disorient. On the flagship, an advisor spoke carefully. "They are not attacking our hulls." "Then what are they attacking?" the Queen demanded. "Our predictability." She looked at him sharply. Human cybernetic warfare moved like water. It flowed around defenses instead of striking them. Algorithms learned in real time, adapting to every correction the alien fleet attempted. Every time a ship recalibrated, the gravitational lattice shifted again, small, controlled, patient. Her empire had conquered through shock and fear, through overwhelming displays of force that broke morale before battle began. But there was no fear here, only restraint. "Deploy countermeasures," the Queen ordered. Counter-hacking units activated. Signal scramblers flared. The interference lessened for a moment, then returned from another direction. Not stronger, just persistent. "Energy levels?" she asked. "Stable," came the reply. "Casualties?" "None." The word hung in the air. None. The Queen felt something colder than anger. Her fleet was neutralized, without a single shot fired. Adrian's voice came calmly through projection. "You can still fire," he said. The Queen turned toward him. "Yes," she replied sharply. "But you won't hit what you intend," he added. She checked the firing grid again. He was correct. The slightest instability in navigation meant long-range planetary strikes would scatter. Some beams would miss entirely. Others would strike unintended zones, possibly even her own outer ships. Her advisors ran simulations rapidly. The results converged on a quiet truth. The humans possess sufficient control to escalate, the chief strategist said slowly. They could compress the gravitational field further. The Queen understood what that meant. If the containment tightened, structural stress would rise across her fleet. Power cores would overload under distortion. Destruction was possible. She looked again at Earth signals. They were not tightening the field. They were holding it steady. "They choose not to," the strategist added quietly. The realization settled across the chamber like frost. The humans could destroy them. They were choosing not to. The Queen felt something unfamiliar press against her certainty. Restraint. Her empire had always presented enemies with two options, surrender or annihilation. Humanity had presented a third, demonstration, without bloodshed, without spectacle, without cruelty, just capability. "Retaliation protocols," she demanded. Her advisors hesitated. "Retaliation risks escalation beyond control," one said carefully. "Their infrastructure suggests long-term planning. They prepare for prolonged engagement." "And if we withdraw?" she asked. "Silence. We preserve fleet integrity," the strategist answered. The Queen stared at the tactical display. Her ships floated within a sphere of human design, not trapped by chains, but by mathematics. No explosions, no screams, just quiet dominance. Her empire had built power through fear. Humanity had built power through patience. In the underground chamber, Adrian spoke once more. "We do not seek your destruction," he said, "but we will not surrender our future." The queen did not respond immediately. For the first time in her reign, she faced an opponent who did not try to match her force. They surpassed it, without violence, and that frightened her more than any weapon could. The containment field remained steady around the alien fleet. No weapons fired. No alarm screamed. Just controlled silence. Then the queen opened a direct transmission to Earth. Her image appeared once more in the underground chamber, where Adrian Cole stood waiting. This time her posture was different. Still proud. Still powerful. But more careful. Her voice was colder now. "Why did you laugh?" There was no anger in the question. Only a need to understand. Adrian did not hesitate. "Because you announced a war we already finished preparing for." The words were calm, plain, honest. The queen studied his face for signs of pride or insult. She found none. He was not mocking her. He was stating a fact. "You expected us," she said slowly. "We prepared for the possibility," Adrian replied. Across the alien flagship, her advisors reviewed updated projections. Every model showed the same pattern. If the humans increased the strength of their gravitational lattice, the fleet would begin to suffer structural stress. Power cores would destabilize. Navigation would fail completely. The humans could destroy them, not instantly, not violently, but certainly. A new transmission flowed from Earth to every alien ship. It contained no threats, no emotional speeches, only data, clear simulations, energy outputs, mathematical predictions, and a simple choice: withdraw or witness escalation, not annihilation. Overwhelming inevitability. The queen stared at the projection of Earth rotating quietly beneath her fleet. She had conquered worlds that begged for mercy. She had crushed rebellions without hesitation. Her empire was built on fear. But here, fear had failed. "You chose not to destroy us," she said to Adrian. "Yes." "Why?" He took a slow breath. "Because we don't need to." The answer carried more weight than any threat. "We defend ourselves," he continued. "We don't erase what we can survive beside." The command chamber on her flagship was silent. Her generals waited for her order. Some wanted retaliation. Others feared escalation. For the first time in her reign, the queen faced a situation she could not dominate through force. Her fleet was intact. Her soldiers were alive. Her pride was wounded, but not broken. If she attacked again, she risked losing everything. If she withdrew, she preserved her empire. She lowered her gaze for a brief moment. "Order the fleet," she said quietly. The chamber froze. "Withdraw from the system." Across space, alien ships powered down their weapons. Thrusters engaged slowly. One by one, they moved away from Earth's orbit. As the first ships crossed beyond the containment boundary, the human lattice weakened gently. Gravitational distortions faded. Communication signals cleared. Humanity did not pursue. They did not fire a final warning shot. They simply watched. On Earth, people stood in cities and stared at the sky as sunlight slowly returned. The shadows lifted. The massive shapes grew smaller. In the Galactic Council chamber, delegates replayed the encounter again and again. They searched for the moment humanity had broken the queen. They found no explosion, no dramatic speech, no final blow, only a short laugh in a quiet underground room. Historians would later record the event carefully. No grand battle occurred. No hero speech was given. No cities burned. Just one quiet human laugh. And an empire that realized something new. Mercy is strongest when it is a decision, not a weakness. A choice. In the underground chamber, Adrian stood alone as the queen's projection faded. The system's power down. The air grew still. The war had never truly begun, because humanity had prepared long before the first threat. And when no mercy was declared, they answered with patience. And that was enough.